नमस्कार, मेरा नाम नवनीत आनंद है और हम ब्यूरोक्रेट्स इंडिया के इस स्पेशल एपिसोड में आप सबों का हार्दिक अभिनंदन करते हैं। दिस इज अ स्पेशल प्रोग्राम कॉल्ड ब्यूरोक्रेट्स इंडिया डायलॉग and we have with us today a very young officer, an IAS of the 2018 batch, Vikramaditya Singh Malik, of the UP cadre, and who is known for having done a little too much in too short a time that he has been in the IAS. आपका बहुत स्वागत है विक्रमादित्य जी, और ब्यूरोक्रेट्स इंडिया की टीम की तरफ से आपका स्वागत है.
Thank you so much to the entire team of Bureaucrats India and to Navneet ji.
Thank you. So we shall begin with your education, which is far from impressive, much more than what would qualify as impressive. So you went to the NALSAR, Malik Saab, having done your schooling from Chandigarh and briefly in Delhi, you went to the NALSAR, one of the most prestigious law colleges in India today. And you came out with flying colors. And then you went to Oxford, you did your master's in law, and then into the IAS. कैसा रहा ये journey आपका? How do you look back and recall those wonderful days?
Of course, it was a long journey, and I look back at those days with a lot of fondness. At that time, जब जो कर रहा था उस time पे ये नहीं पता था. A lot of people have a lot of they plan their careers, or their parents plan their careers for them, or in school and high school and in 11th and 12th they plan their careers. In my case, it was just jumping from one thing to the other. Till 12th, I just followed blindly what my older sister did, and when I found what she did difficult, then I tried to carve my own path. So after 12th, I started preparing for law school. I got through to NALSAR University of Law. Of course, law school is challenging. You're straight out of out of school. You stay in a hostel, and the kind of deliverables they have for you, any national law school, for that matter, it's challenging to start with, and but it teaches you a lot. It institutionalizes you. It teaches you. It equips you with the skills that are required in not only just the legal field, but with in other fields as well. So my journey in NALSAR, the 5 years, was strenuous. It involved a lot of perseverance, but I think as it is with anything in life, if you work hard and you put your heart in the right place, you do reasonably okay. And from there, I joined a law firm for about a year called Amarchand Mangaldas. I did litigation for them. From there, I thought, why not do a master's? So I applied for a master's. I got through to Oxford. I did my master's there. I was sure I didn't want to stay outside of India. I was sure I wanted to come back to my country. And the plan at that time was to come back and practice, to do litigation. There was no plan to sit for the IAS exam. So I came back, I started my practice, I worked for a couple of years. And in the meantime, a lot of things, you learn, you realize, you see what are other perspectives in other professions. And that's when, through some experiences, I realized that sitting for the UPSC exam is also a good option. So then I pursued that, and here we are. I'm almost 5 years into the service now. So it's been a long but a very satisfying journey.
Wonderful. I'm sure you are an inspiration for many young law graduates as well as youngsters aspiring to become IAS. And then the cliched question, what was the inspiration for writing the civil services, considering that you had many gold medals also to your credit, and you landed up in one of India's best law firms. Then you went to Oxford. Many would have thought that you would have opted, like you said, but what was the specific inspiration for writing the IAS exam?
This question, everybody who clears the exam, they prepare for this question for the interview and many stages after the interview. And I don't think, at least in my case, I've been able to perfect an answer to this question, but on the lighter side, the real reason, it was a slightly philosophical one. I realized in the law that even though I really enjoyed practice, I really enjoyed litigation, and honestly, like if I hadn't been successful, I would have gone back to that career very, very happily. But circumstances were such that I would compare professionally, I would compare my work as a lawyer versus other bureaucrats, other civil servants, younger civil servants. I was fortunate to have my sister in the family and my father as well, so they both are in the IAS. So my sister, at a very young age, whatever she was doing was having a very large social impact. So it was that social impact which really attracted me, because in the legal field, I realized over a period of time that even though there is legal aid and you can do pro bono work and all, but all of that also comes once you've established yourself and once you've reached a certain stage. But at a very young age, this service offers the opportunity to have the kind of social impact that no other service or no other job in the world does. So I would compare my professional satisfaction, where I thought at the end of the day I was working only for myself, versus say my sister, who was a young civil servant who was working for a huge amount of people in her jurisdiction. So that was the primary motivation. The other, of course, was that there's a huge amount of responsibility attached to this service. You can make so much of social change. You can make people's lives better. Even that smallest change that you bring in one person's life is completely worth the effort. So those things inspired me, and that's when I realized that perhaps being a part on within the system, within the government system, was a better way to go about things for professional satisfaction in our country. The other thing also was that I was always, even during my days at Oxford, and even when I was working for the law firm, I was involved in a bit of policy work. And I realized that the best way to work in policy in our country, we have our various systems in the world where different people from different field are involved at policy level. And that's also true for our country, for especially at the government of India level. But I realized that for policy shaping, implementation, and execution, the kind of experience that the service offers is unparalleled.
That's wonderful. Thank you for that philosophical but very realistic answer. My friends, you're watching Bureaucrats India Dialogue. Today is July 31st, 2023. And we have with us a very bright young IAS officer of 2018 batch. His name, like his work, is also very impressive, Vikramaditya Singh Malik. We move on, Vikramaditya. You have many accolades in a short span of time that you have spent. But the first thing that I would want to talk, and I'm sure my audience is very keen to learn from you, from the horse's mouth, and we had run a story also on Bureaucrats India, is about the Bikes of Bijnor, an incredibly impressive initiative. What was the project about? How did you get the inspiration? How has it worked? And how is it working after you have moved from Bijnor to Ghaziabad?
So Bikes of Bijnor was an initiative we planned and executed when I was posted as Joint Magistrate Bijnor. And before that, I was posted in Varanasi. So during the first wave of COVID, I was posted in this tehsil as the SDM, as Joint Magistrate, in called Raja Talab in Varanasi, which falls within, it falls on the highway, on the Prayagraj to Banaras highway, and goes on to Calcutta. So that's a part of GT Road, and which used to be NH1. So during that time, COVID, the first stage of COVID was the time when there was a lot of movement of migrant labor, students, a lot of movements because of the lockdown, people were going back to their homes. And at that time, when I was in Varanasi, when I was the SDM at Rajatala, what we saw was that even those people who were coming by cycle, we would tie them. We had a process of special bus service for them. We would get them to come on a bus and then send them to their homes in eastern UP and Bihar, because that was the migrant labor movement, and the numbers were astounding. In about 14 days, just in my tehsil, the amount of people we sent on buses was around 85,000. And what we would do, people they were moving by whatever vehicles they were getting. They were moving through cycles, they were moving through by foot. So at that time, when all those laborers who were coming by cycle, we would tie the cycles on top of the buses and send them. So that was the practice that was generally followed everywhere. But I think the story was different in Western UP because the distances were huge. So after my first stint in Varanasi, when I was posted after the first wave of COVID, few months after that, when I was posted in Bijnor, on one of my field visits, initially, as soon as I joined, I went, my tehsil was Sadar Bijnor, and I went to the border. So our border was with Haridwar. And I went to the border chowki and I saw at least 300 cycles lying inundated in water, because that was the time when our post monsoon, there is, I won't call it flooding, but there's increase of water levels of Ganga Ji. So because of that, the chowki was low lying and these cycles were lying inundated in water. And I inquired about these cycles. Immediately after, a couple of days later, I got a call on my official phone through this one laborer from Eastern UP saying कि साहब हमारी cycles का क्या हुआ, हम वापस आके लेना चाहते हैं. So then I inquired, I discussed the whole concept with my then District Magistrate, Mr. Ramakant Pandey, who was a very positive and encouraging boss. And he told me to think of ways or what we could do with the cycles. And there were many, during the discussion, there were many options, that maybe we would get them fitted and we would give them as a reward to students, or we would give them out to laborers, because not everyone was coming back to take their cycles, right? So then, because I had some sort of, I'm from Chandigarh and then from Delhi, and I've lived in Hyderabad, in the UK, and in all those places we saw public bike sharing programs. So this idea clicked in my head, and of having a waste to wealth public bike sharing program. And I discussed it with my DM, and he was very, very forthcoming and very encouraging. And he said, if you can manage it without any government resources, if you can manage this project, go ahead. I'll give you all the support that's required. And so that's when we formed this entire plan. We first had a pilot of 100 bikes. We called up, I set up a control room. We called up, luckily, all the cycles that were left behind. So these cycles, sorry, I missed that small link. These cycles were those of the migrant labor who was sent through special trains. So the cycles could not be sent through trains because the distances were large. There were hardly any bus movement from this part. There were train movement, right? So they were forced to leave these cycles. So luckily, my predecessors had noted down, there was no way to tell which cycle is whose, but they had noted down name and mobile number and Aadhaar card of the person who was leaving his cycle. So we had some sort of a data. So we started calling people. We started saying, "Ki ya to aap aake." First, I formed a committee. We got evaluation done of the cycles. Some cycle was a newer cycle was valued at 12, 13, 1500. As a very old cycle, degraded cycle was valued at 200-300. So when we got all the cycles valued, the average came to about 599 rupees and 600 rupees, which was still something that the laborers would get back, because a new cycle, I think, costs around that. The basic cycle costs around 3,000 rupees back then when we checked it. And we called up people. We called up more than 100 people, and many of their numbers had changed. Many people didn't believe that the government system would call them and offer them money in lieu of their cycles, in lieu of giving them information about their bank accounts. So they said, "Hum bank account, this might be a fraud, hum bank account nahi denge." Even though we were calling from a government landline phone and all of that. So it was a challenge, but ultimately we got 100 people who gave their bank account details. We transferred the money to them so that we would have legal possession of those cycles. And then we formed 10 spots. We identified 10 spots in the city, the spots where there would be most movement of people, like the collectorate, the tehsil, the hospital, the bus stop. People would come from rural areas to the bus station and then take rickshaws to do their work in the city. So we did that. Important chaurahas, the markets, the Sadar bazaars, all of that. And then through convergence, through Nagar Nigam, the Nagar Palika, we got the place making done of those stands. Then we put a map with the terms and conditions, and then we started this project of public bike sharing. Where we valued it at a very, very cheap price. So the first month we made it completely free, and then to gain traction, and then we valued it at 5 rupees for 4 hours and 10 rupees for the entire day. And there was a system in place. The person would take a parchi. He could take a cycle from anywhere and put the cycle anywhere, return it anywhere. There was that entire system that we got in place. Of course, we formed a society. We registered a society with SDM Sadar as the head and the EO of the Nagar Palika as the secretary. We raised funds from CSR. Bijnor CSR wasn't that big, so we raised funds from, say, industries associations, Vyapar Bandhu, and all of that. And the whole project cost was nothing more. It was just simply about, I think we spent 90,000 rupees for because we capped the cost of this renovation of the cycle. The idea was that a new cycle costs 3,000 bucks. So this cycle cost should not cost us more than 1,500 bucks, at least half of that. And 600 we had already given to the laborer. So 900 was our budget. And some cycle needed more than 900, some cycle needed less than 900. So it averaged out. Our project cost was only 90,000 plus whatever the Nagar Palika spent on making the stands. So entire project cost was not more than 4-5 lakh rupees, which we managed through convergence and through CSR. And for the first, as soon as we launched the project in March 2021, Delta hit us within a month. And Delta was very bad, as you all know. So obviously there were initial hiccups with the project, but as soon as Delta sort of withered away, the project took off. And we had people, we even had a day in the week where the officers would go to office on these cycles. We got dark runners to use these cycles. We got the Safai Karmcharis. We got people coming from rural areas to use these cycles. So there was a lot of traction of these cycles. But having said that, when I used to review it every month, we realized that about 4 of the 10 stands were doing incredibly well. The booklets of parchis that we had printed, we had given two booklets each at each stand. They were out within 1.5-2 months. So there were at least 7-8 cycles being taken from their stand of 10 every day. But few stands were those where there was not even an average of 1 a day or 2 a day. But still, there was good traction. It was functioning well. Even through Omicron, it functioned well. But slowly, I think even now somebody last week only from Bijnor, I moved on from Bijnor. It's been 1 year and 4 months now that I'm in Ghaziabad. Somebody from Bijnor sent me a video of this guy who had taken a cycle, and he said, "Sir, your cycles are still being used." But I'm told that the use has decreased a bit because somewhere I think maybe over time focus shifted onto other projects. But people who are used to using these cycles use them even today. So that was the success story of the project.
Wonderful. Congratulations for that amazing initiative. And I'm sure one fine officer one day would see merit in it and perhaps revive. It also got mentioned in the parliament.
Yeah, that's right.
How was that?
I think the timing was such that as soon as we launched the project, the Honorable Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways had brought in the vehicle scrapping policy. Right. So the idea was, it just, I think it clicked to him that we use cycles that were lying at a thana, at the chowki. We, renovated them and had a project out of it. So he said all the cars and the motorcycles that are lying piled up on thanas just because they're not being able to be auctioned, something should be done with them. So he drew a parallel between our project and the vehicle scrappage policy. So I think the timing was such that he mentioned it in the parliament as an example of innovation, and it was a huge blessing for us, encouragement for us, that it got mentioned in the parliament. And not only that, even the capacity building commission, we submitted our entire dossier. They do third party inspection and everything. We submitted our entire dossier to capacity building commission, who were doing crowdsourcing of, or they were doing, they were shortlisting innovations in governance. And Bikes of Bijnor has listed in the top 10 innovations in that. They're coming out with a coffee table book that is going to be presented, I think, either in Parliament or the Honorable PM's Resource Council or somewhere, I'm told, in the next couple of months.
Wonderful. I truly wish one day it features in Honorable PM's Man Ki Baat, because this
Actually,
is
we got a call from the Honorable PM's office. We made a note for Man Ki Baat. It was pitted to be there in that Man Ki Baat, but that very month, Delta started as soon as the project was launched. So the entire focus of that Man Ki Baat shifted to COVID. So I think we lost out by a whisker. It was going to be mentioned. We had given the note, we had sent the video, we had done all of that. I think we just missed out.
Yeah, much like Bicharpur that Honorable PM mentioned yesterday,
Right.
in MP Shahdol. So
Right.
this is great, wonderful. So from Hyderabad to Ghaziabad, it has been an incredible journey of the young IAS officer that you're watching speak to us at Bureaucrats India today on July 31st, 2023. You have been a sports enthusiast, Vikramaditya ji. Tell us, how does it inspire you to innovate? We are coming to more exciting, conversation about your initiatives as CDO, but whether it was in NALSAR or Oxford or Labasna, we see that you have an impressive record. Despite that, you managed to excel also at tennis and squash and basketball. How do you draw some inspiration from sports? Does it make you mentally more agile and fit?
Actually, while growing up, I was more into sports than studies altogether. My parents were very worried that I would not do well in studies, and we were from a middle class family where education was the backbone of our family. And my sister was always the topper, doing well and topping whichever exam she would sit in, and I was just into sports. I would not study, and I was because the age gap between us was only 2 years. I would blindly follow what she had done and somehow make do till school. So while I was growing up, when I was in school, I was a national level tennis player. I even played cricket in Chandigarh at a good level. And in college, I was an integral part of the cricket team. I was the captain of the tennis and squash teams of my law school. At Oxford, I played cricket at a good level. And even when I was preparing for the services, I picked up squash because I wasn't till then. I played tennis and cricket, and then while preparing, I picked up squash as a way to focus, as a way of meditation. I always say this, that for different people, there are different forms of meditation, right? Some people do yoga, some people just sit and do dhyan, some people have gurus. For me, sports was my meditation and my other focus point other than the studies. And sports teaches you so many things. It teaches you perseverance, it teaches you persistence, it teaches you different ways of thinking, it teaches you teamwork, team spirit, it teaches you it teaches you to shed your failures and keep moving. It's a whole life lesson, you know, if you think of it that way. It teaches you so much. And when I was preparing, you know, I would even take, because I made it in my fourth attempt in the services. Till then, I had been very successful, and I saw 3 failures, and then I finally made it in my fourth attempt. And I would follow. I would use sport and my time off studies only to play sports, and I use that as my encouraging factor or motivating factor. And at that time, I would all the main sportsmen of our time, you know, whether it was, but I was most inspired by MS Dhoni, only because you know, of his calm composure, and more importantly, the skill to have detachment. You know, that is when I realized and I understood that how you can be interested, you can really badly want something and still be detached with the result, right? And so I would draw inspiration from sportsmen, I would draw inspiration from my own experiences as a sports person, and that really helped me in my journey during the UPSC process. And even after, now that, you know, we're in the service, not sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll just continue from where it got cut. Now that, you know, we're in the service, from the outside, it appears that everything is hunky-dory, very good. But actually, it requires a lot of strategic planning, thinking, um, a lot of challenges in execution. You have to account for a lot of extraneous factors. In all of this, the repository of realizations and values that you get through your socialization, which is also inspired or maybe inspired through many experiences like sports in my case, is something that really helps you in your career, not only your journey for the exam.
Thank you. You have grown up seeing your father in the IAS, and of course, your sister. We'll talk about them a little later. But what do you think has changed over the years in bureaucracy? Today, of course, there is more transparency, there is more willingness on part of bureaucrats to understand, and not that it was not there, you know, but the red tapeism that we have, you know, seen over the years, gradually declining and disappearing in many instances. There is far more transparency today as in the past. How do you look at this transition of bureaucracy?
That's a very complex question, because at the outside, you know, I'd like to state that for any growing nation or for any growing society, things, if it's going in the right way, things are bound to get better over time naturally as well. So there is a natural progression in any case, in any sphere of life, right? So obviously, if we were an evolving country back in the 1970s, our systems, just from learning from experience and changing of context and realizations, things would naturally get better, or should naturally get better 30 years down the line or 40 years down the line. Having said that, of course, it's the nature of governance has changed. The nature of politics of governance has changed. The nature of politics has changed. The political executive has changed. The democratic setup has changed. The legislative setup has changed. The judicial setup has changed, right, over the years. So naturally, when everything is going to change, the bureaucratic setup has also progressed. If I were to sum it up in one line, I think back in the day, people used to go to the government, whereas now it's more of the government going to the people. And as our Honorable Prime Minister says, that there is definitely a case of, minimum government, maximum governance. I think over time, with technology coming in and reduced human discretion in processes and systems, things are bound to get more transparent. Having said that, there are various checks and balances for bureaucrats or civil servants, as I would like to put them, in place. You have the RTIs, you have the judicial, the very active judicial system. You have the fourth pillar, the press. You have social media. Anything that happens immediately gets highlighted on social media. All of these checks and balances didn't exist as they exist today back, say, even 15 years from now or 20 years from now. So I'm not saying that it's definitely all for the good. It has its pros and cons, but definitely the more accountability and the more checks and balances you put in any system, the more transparency there would be and the more progression of that system would ensue. So I think these are if I were to ask you how many newspapers you read today, vis-a-vis how much of the news do you instantly see on your phone, 10 times a day or 5 times a day? If we were to do an analysis, you would yourself say that I get most of my news from the phone, because very few people now have the patience to
You're watching Bureaucrats India Dialogue, and with us today, we
Right.
have
Right.
Mr. Vikramaditya Singh Malik, an IAS officer of 2018 batch. Yes, please carry on.
So if we were to do an analysis, very few people would actually wait for opening up the news, a physical form of the newspaper the next day. In fact, in our district only, I was doing this analysis with the other officers the other day, that the readership of the most famous or the most read newspaper per day is about 25,000 people. That's it in our district. Whereas social media followers of that very news channel or your instant live news channels it runs into lakhs, right? So things have changed, things have become more immediate, there is more accountability, there are more eyes on you. So obviously that does improve, put a pressure on the system to make systems better, to make processes better, to reduce human discretion, and I think move governance towards a positive direction.
Brilliantly put. In fact, this also reminds me of a very special program being run by Arunachal Pradesh government called Sarkar Aapke Dwar. And that aptly sums up what you were trying to say. Also because the Honorable Chief Minister, Mr. Pema Khandu, also happens to be from the college that I went to, the Hindu College in Delhi University. And he's out there among people every day. In fact, today only I read a tweet by Honorable Chief Minister of Assam, where he announced that from October 1st to 15th, we shall be out, including the Chief Minister himself, to be there on the ground to understand people's...
The same is happening in our state in Uttar Pradesh. Our Honorable Chief Minister does a Janta Darshan as frequently as anyone else can. When he goes to Gorakhpur also, there's a lot of people who reach for his Janta Darshan. In Lucknow, he does a very, very regular Janta Darshan. And that puts a lot of pressure on us in the districts, that people, if somebody is going from our district to the Honorable Chief Minister, that means he did not get redressal within the state. So that reflects badly on us. So that promotes us to do better and better and ensure that problems that are of a district level do not get resolved at the district level. So government is definitely going to the people, and all schemes, all our welfare schemes, we are a welfare state, all our welfare schemes, all our other schemes, wage schemes, employment schemes, self-employment schemes, all of them, they're being taken to the ground by the government setup. So that has definitely changed.
We have hope as long as people like you are there in the system. You also know, I mean, not to be cynical about it, but still there are challenges. But we would rather focus on the positives. In fact, I recently did a paper where I have mentioned how during COVID, many IAS, IPS officers, I've mentioned about UP police as well, use the social media, embrace the social media, mediated, by reaching out to people directly, and how effective that was. Wonderful. We'll come to your.
Now that I want to say a point. Now that you say that, it was only post COVID that I also, till then, I was not active on social media platforms like Twitter at all. But it was during COVID and specifically during Delta, which was very challenging, when people would put their grievances of oxygen supply, of beds in hospitals on Twitter, and we were able to resolve them just remotely. Is when even someone like like young officers like myself, young by young I mean young in the service, we realized the importance of these platforms. And then we realized that it's not only for showcasing your work, but it's also for redressal of complaints of people in your district or wherever you're posted. So it's a very effective tool of governance now.
Absolutely. In fact, one of the very senior IAS officers that we have the great privilege of working with, Mr. Sanjeev Hans, he's the CMD of Bihar State Power Holding Company Limited. Right. And he's a strong votary of use of social media to address people's grievances. And it is being done extremely judiciously. To be honest to you, I have used this platform, Bureaucrats India, DCs of India, SPs of India, to randomly I see some, genuinely aggrieved people, and we try and help, considering that we have a very decent followers base now with many IAS, IPS young officers like you following us. So it helps us and gives us a lot of gratification. When people like you go and respond on Twitter yourself, imagine how transformative this is, from the past, when people would spend days together to meet a district collector or an SDO or a CDO. Wonderful. We'll come to your current interventions, which are again extremely impressive. We'll begin with the pond rejuvenation program. You're sitting about 50 kilometers away from me, but the photos that I see and the stories that I read, and and the great things I hear about how Ghaziabad is doing amazingly well when it comes to rejuvenating the ponds, our water bodies, that is extremely heartening. Share your initiative towards this, Vikramaditya ji.
Sure. So, again, we had a lot of challenges in Ghaziabad. The first is that land is very scarce. It's an industrialized district, and just getting data on what was originally ponds or talab ka number within the maps, which we call the Shajra, itself was a challenge, and getting it encroachment free was a challenge. Not only that, the biggest challenge was is that the Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantees Act, Manrega, and Mahatma Gandhi Narega, is not applicable as a scheme in Ghaziabad. So we have a very, very acute shortage of funds as far as pond rejuvenation is concerned, because as our Honorable Prime Minister started the Amrit Sarovar scheme last year, and it was pushed greatly by our Honorable Chief Minister, the primary scheme to give effect to that, or the primary tool to give effect to that scheme of Amrit Sarovars, of building at least 75 Amrit Sarovars in every district, was the Manrega scheme, right? And we do not have that because the labor budget is zero, because nobody is willing to work at 214 rupees a day in Ghaziabad, because the wage rate is very high. Nobody works below 450, 500 rupees, and that is the standard rate in Delhi, in Ghaziabad. So we had a lot of challenges, freeing encroachments from pond numbers, arranging funds. So the kind of innovation that we looked at was, of course, we had an option of tapping some kind of CSR, but a small innovation that we did was that we have a redundant body known as Bhugarbh Jal Parishad. Right. Ideally, there's a 2019. There was a Central Water Board, CGWA, that used to be existent in all states and districts, and there's a 2019 act of the UP government where there's a formation of a Bhugarbh Jal Board, the Underground Water Council, and the prerogative of the council is to give NOCs for taking out water in critical and semi-critical areas. And the condition is that for the amount of water that is taken out, an equal amount or a double amount, depending on criticality, has to be rejuvenated, right? So first we got that regulatory requirement printed on the NOC itself from the government. First we got that done. After that was done, all the permissions, we activated this council. We got all the big companies situated in Ghaziabad, stationed in Ghaziabad, to take permission from the council for taking out underground water. And as a result of that, we got them to have a regulatory requirement, not CSR requirement, a regulatory requirement of rejuvenation of water. So our funds crunch was solved. We had all these companies who had to spend that amount of money because they had to have that much acreage of showing rejuvenation as a regulatory requirement. Right. So all that was required now was getting that that list of all the companies, getting the pieces of land together, and very, very thorough, very, very persistent monitoring on behalf of, say, the CDO and the BDOs. So we started working on this last year. And what we did was we formed a panel of 2-3 people who we knew were experts in their field of water rejuvenation. For example, we have Pondman of India, Ramveer Tanwar, who has been mentioned by the Honorable Prime Minister in his Mann Ki Baat for the works that he has done. Then we have Nadi Putra Raman Tyagi, who's from Neer Foundation, who has also worked on water. He also rejuvenated the Neem Nadi in Hapod, which was also mentioned by Honorable Prime Minister in his Mann Ki Baat speech and another version. So we got a panel of all these people, and we told these companies that, look, we are going to regulate the working. These are the panel of people. These are experts. Why don't you use them? Because if you have to do work, you might as well do work which is very good. And you might as well, do work which is technically also sound, scientifically also sound. You just don't dig a pond and call it a talab, because it has to have an inlet, outlet. It has to have sedimentation tanks, filtration ponds. It has to have other features. Then we had to get a pathway around it, some benches. We had to get afforestation done around it. It has to be a spot of rural tourism, right? It has to be an attractive spot for that village, for the villagers to come to that place as a recreational activity. So it's not just about satisfying that regulatory requirement of rejuvenation of water, but it is also creating an experience for our villagers. So when we got all of this together, we did thorough enforcement, we did thorough monitoring, and that's how we're sitting on 85 Amrit Sarovars, which are scientifically working very well, and we completed them by March, April, and before the rainy season. And now there's water filled up after the rainy season, and they look beautiful. The aesthetics of them, of these ponds, some of these ponds especially. If I could show some pictures here, but I hadn't planned for this, but I can send a video later. But aesthetically, it's really very impressive, and the credit goes to the entire team, everyone. And we are monitored by our by Shasan in Lucknow, and even in that, we've achieved 60% of our target, more than 60% of the target, and we're rank 1 in performance of Amrit Sarovars, and the district that is rank 2 has achieved 39%. But I have to give a caveat. All of them have actually done 75 Amrit Sarovars per district. The only thing was that UP government, in furtherance of the Honorable Prime Minister's direction to do 75, passed a GO saying that there has to be one in each village or two in each village. So that for some districts essentially reached 1,000, 2,000. So UP as such has anyway achieved 196% of its target that the government of India gave. And Ghaziabad is ranked 1 within UP. And you might have seen some photos on Twitter. And, there were also some places where they had become landfills. Our Honorable Chief Secretary had visited one such place, and I committed to him that, sir, in 3 months, we'll convert this into a beautiful Amrit Sarovar. And we did it. We got regulatory requirement through one of our partners, Dabur India, and we got the pondman to work on it. And within 2.5 months, it was done. And it was just finished before the monsoon season. Those 2 ponds at the entry point of Ghaziabad, which used to be a landfill and aesthetically used to look very bad. Anyone used to come, and apart from looking very bad, it was a health hazard for people around. It was a sore in the eye. It was ruining the reputation of the city as such, or the district as such. And we've now made it into a beautiful pond with a pathway that people use to walk around. And one more thing that we've done is many of our bigger ponds, we've through the tehsils, we're engaging fisheries. So we're giving them on patta for Matsya Palan, which is fisheries. And that ensures that the ponds are maintained, aeration is done, and all of those things. So yeah, it's been hopefully a successful story. Our Honorable Chief Secretary has also tweeted about a few ponds that we have made, that we had committed to him, and it's worked well for us. I think you're muted, Navneet ji.
मैं देख रहा था आपके ट्विटर टाइमलाइन पे, एंड रियली वेरी इम्प्रेसिव एंड कांग्रेचुलेशंस. मैं गाजियाबाद बहुत अक्सर जाता हूँ, and I truly wonder how did you manage to get space, because like you were saying, being an urbanized city on the border of Delhi, space should have been a constraint. But amazing, great work. Next time I'm there, I'm going to request you to show some of these ponds. Brilliant. You also have done some amazing work in healthcare. Share with us your PRDMS initiative and how is it working on ground.
Right. We did 2-3 interventions in the healthcare system. One was unique. One was done at the division level. So there were 5 other districts that did it, and it was a combined effort. And one was the vision of our Honorable Chief Minister. I'll speak about the first initiative, which was unique in the sense that to the best of my knowledge, it has not been implemented anywhere else in the country. It's a portal or a system called PRTMS, which is the Patient Referral Tracking Management System. Again, during one of our visits to a CHC, in Ghaziabad, one positive thing after the 3 waves or 4 waves, if you want to call it, of 3 waves of COVID, has been that there is a revival of government healthcare services, a revival of trust of people in the government healthcare service, right? So a lot of people have started going to our healthcare facilities, like the PHCs and CHCs in particular. And in one such CHC in Dasna, when we had visited and we looked at the register, you won't believe it. In a month, the number of OPD in that CHC was 25,000 people. And when we took out the data of all main healthcare facilities, we're not talking about urban PHCs, we're not talking about health and wellness centers. I'm only talking about PHCs, CHCs, and district hospitals. We have 3 district hospitals. So the entire data of OPDs in these 7-8 facilities in 1 month crosses 1 lakh. It is about 1,10,000, 1,15,000, varies between that, which is a huge number for a month. And a lot of times at lower level facilities, what happens is that there are not all kind of specialties available, right? So there may not be an ophthalmologist available, there may not be at a PHC, or there may not be a gynecologist for an institutional delivery at a PHC available, all of that. or may not be a heart specialist available. So a lot of times patients are referred to higher facilities. But क्या होता है कि वो डॉक्टर हाथ से लिख देता है, जिला अस्पताल में दिखाएं, right? But it's difficult to monitor whether that patient ultimately ended up getting healthcare, that healthcare facility or not, whether he got treatment or not. The government gives free treatment, whether he got free treatment or whether he was moved to the private sector and had to go to a local doctor or a private hospital. So to monitor all of this and to ultimately, our end was to achieve end-to-end healthcare service provision. To oversee this, we formed this portal of online referrals. So any referral that is made from a lower healthcare facility is made online on the portal, which automatically goes on the portal of the higher healthcare facility, and immediately the patient gets an SMS saying, आप इस टाइम पे इस दिन इस डॉक्टर को इस फैसिलिटी में दिखाएं, इस हॉस्पिटल में दिखाएं. If that patient goes and shows himself or herself to that doctor, the doctor prescribes medicines, whatever, and either he marks it as treated or pending, right? One more thing I wanted to add was that prescription also is an online prescription which is forwarded from the lower facility to the higher facility on the portal. If the patient misses the appointment at the higher facility once, he gets a repeat SMS. A repeat SMS saying, आज आप नहीं आ पाए, कल आप इस दिन इस टाइम या परसों आप इस डेट पे अपने आप का उपचार कराएं. And at the second time, the Ayushman Mitra, who is sitting at the higher healthcare facility, also calls these patients, or the MS can use other people to call, and they also call these patients and nudge them कि आप आके अपने आप को दिखाइए. So what I said earlier during this conversation, the system is going to the people instead of the people coming to the system, and it has been made completely online. And weekly, 15 days and monthly, the CMO, the CDO and the DM monitors how many referrals were made, how many referrals were received, how many were treated, how many are pending, and how many have lapsed. And those that have lapsed, there can be many reasons, whether got treated elsewhere or naturally got treated or took some medicine and usse ho gaya, whatever the reason may be. So that entire data we can see, and we have that data. There's a one-time registration of patients, so there's a history being created, and like private huge hospitals where the footfall is less, much lesser than the government system, we try to introduce this system to track whether patients going to lower healthcare facilities are ultimately getting healthcare support or not.
बहुत अच्छा. And you developed this software at the district level?
Yeah, we developed this software at the district level. We had a private developer partner, our NIC team, our health department, and it was spearheaded by the CDO's office. So I got all of these people together and we formed, of course, the initial, my DM sir gave all kinds of support. He gave the initial idea also that you should work on something like this, because when we visited the CHC, and then we took it from there, and we took a few months. We did a trial when we developed the system, and now we're thinking of furthering the system. We're thinking of maybe, because we are facing a few problems of sheer numbers and trying to do it on a portal online. So we're exploring if we can convert this into an app also. So we're trying to sort of keep working on it and keep refining our product.
Amazing. That's wonderful to know. And that brings me to a related question, that of late we have seen a lot of use of technology for governance. And now we are talking about artificial intelligence. Any views on this? How do you look at artificial intelligence vis-a-vis bureaucracy, or how do you think civil servants can leverage the power of AI without being overwhelmed by it?
See, AI is a reality that is here to stay. And the sooner we accept it and the sooner we adapt to it and adopt it in a limited, in a productive and positive manner, the better it is. I always say with any kind of technology that where it is used to reduce human discretion, where human discretion is not required. For example, implementation of schemes or provision of services. It's always better to use these systems. But of course, the master always should remain the human mind, and we need to lay out the extent of usage of AI and any such future technological revolution. So it is definitely a positive and welcome step as long as it reduces human discretion in systems and makes the process easier, makes systems easier, infuses systems to do better, and at the same time doesn't take away the control that the human mind should have. I think that is the balance that we need to tread on, and that is the balance that we need to achieve. And if we're able to maintain that balance, it's very positive, and we should go ahead with it.
I like that. The master should always remain the human mind, and because there are challenges associated with AI that should not overwhelm us, as I said. And thank you for that candid opinion, Vikramaditya ji. Variety of topics we touched upon, but I come back to from where I started about the inspiration, your father and your sister. And we have been talking about your sister. She's the first district magistrate of Ludhiana, right?
First woman district magistrate.
First woman, sorry, I'm sorry. First woman, Ludhiana. And she did a splendid job during this recent rains, that had affected Punjab. So tell us about your father and your sister, and of course your mother and other family members.
Of course, like a lot of people in the world, the first inspiration is from the parents, and both my parents have inspired us and continue to inspire us. My father is now retired from the service, but he was an IAS officer of the 1983 batch, and he inspired both of us to a large extent. He retired as Secretary, Ministry of Road Transport and Highways, and prior to that he was Chairman NHAI. So his entire tenure in road transport and highways was about 3.5 years. So all the prime work of highways that we see right now, whether it's the Delhi Meerut Expressway, the Eastern Peripheral, the Western Peripheral, the Delhi Mumbai Expressway, I think 21 of these greenfield expressways were his brainchild and working. And now that they're taking shape, we are continued to be inspired by his work. And in fact, he even received the PM Award for Excellence in, I think, 2008 or 2009 for a system very famous now called MCA 21. When he was Joint Secretary, Ministry of Corporate Affairs, he was the person instrumental for MCA 21 for the entire process of making registration of companies online and easing the process of registration of companies. So a lot of his initiatives, the way he conducted himself, has inspired us and continues to inspire us. My sister is an IAS officer of the 2012 batch. To join the services, actually, I was inspired by my sister and my mother more. My father thought I was a good lawyer and I would have done well in the legal field. And that was my initial calling. So his initial thought was that I should have continued as a lawyer on a very light side. But my sister has also, she was again, did very well at Delhi University, LSR, and then London School of Economics as a Commonwealth scholar. And she did, her work was recognized when, even during COVID, when she was heading the main tertiary care facility, 700 bedded hospital in Rajendra Hospital in Patiala. And she did a fabulous job there. And thereon, she's taken many assignments and is now the first district magistrate of Ludhiana, and continues to inspire younger people like me. As I said, while growing up, I would just do what she had done, and because she had done it, things were easier for me. And somewhere, my getting into the service was also inspired by her journey. My mother was a professor in Punjab University and Government College for Men. She is also an author. She is also from Lady Shri Ram College, and she's an author. She's authored 5 novels. First novel is actually quite famous. It's called Indian Mem Sahib, The Untold Story of a Bureaucrat's Wife. And the second one is its sequel called Mem Sahib's Chronicles. The third one also did very well, called Women Extraordinaire. And then she went on to write her fourth and her fifth. Last came out, it's called Scent of the Soil. It came out last year, I believe, in March 2022. And so she's an author. So the perseverance and the dogged persistence in our family comes from her. And she was, when I wasn't, I always say this, I always attribute the credit of my success in the services to her the most, because since I made it in my 4th attempt, she was the only one who kept me going and kept telling me that I have faith in you, you're going to make it, so keep at it. So we're blessed with this small unit that we call a family, and God has been very kind.
Amazing, illustrious family, and what an inspiration, or what a delight to know all of you. I must request your sister to also come, and why not your father also, to bless us with their presence, because this platform, Bureaucrats India, is designed to spread positivity, to share stories of good governance, to get young and not so young minds to this platform. And we are very happy to share that over now 100 officers we have had the luxury of and the privilege of having with us during various in our various programs, including these exclusive interview. You have been very kind. Now, some certainly, considering that you not only come from an illustrious family, but you also had an excellent career yourself, be it academics or administration. You have done amazingly well, and I'm sure you'll continue to do well, like father, like son. Now, what are some of the tips you would want to give? Perseverance, one can make out from you. 4th attempt, and having the lure of getting a very cozy, comfortable, high-paying job. You kept that in abeyance till you had exhausted your civil services, but destiny had wanted you to get into this service. Now, what does it take to endure, these hardships, these tough days? You said it nicely, but I can understand the anxiety and the pain that you would have endured during those. And I'm sure many young aspiring bureaucrats who would listen to you would get inspired by your story. So what do you have to tell to them about enduring these hardships?
I can go on this for the longest time, but honestly, the only thing that I'd want to say is that if you're doing it for the right reasons, you don't need extraneous reasons to keep you going. So the reason that kept me going for the 4th till through the 2nd and the 3rd and the 4th attempt was that I wanted to positively contribute towards governance, towards policy. I wanted to do it for the right reasons, for the work, for social impact. There are a lot of things that come with the service, like, facilities, perks, all of those things. They were not my inspiration because I was in a much higher paying job earlier. So I was going to take a pay cut anyway. And B, because I had the advantage of having seen this while growing up, I wasn't really attracted towards them. So the reason was right, that I wanted to serve our country. I wanted to, whether it was when I made the decision of coming back from Oxford, coming back to the country, because we had job fairs, recruitment fairs even there, and I knew that I had to come back. It just was from within. And the reason of wanting to do it for the right reasons is what kept me going. I actually was interested in doing all the work that a civil servant is expected to do and required to do and meant to do, right? So that is the first thing. The second thing, of course, I'm not saying that people cannot have other motivational factors. The second thing is that use whatever motivates you to achieve your end goal, right? Both the things are important. The end is also important and the means are also important. But at some point, you have to realize that cracking the exam is a means itself to a different end. It's not the end in itself, right? Your journey actually starts when you've cracked the exam. Whereas when you're preparing, you think कि एक बारी बस list में नाम आ जाए, so that is the end. Whereas actually that is the start of a new journey, right? So you need to realize that whatever you're doing is also may not be an end in itself, but maybe a means or maybe a part of the process. So it's very important to enjoy the process. Of course, there are a lot of absence of success or failure. It puts you down. It's very difficult to keep your chin up, keep your head held high, and keep going. It's not easy. You have to find yourself what will keep you motivated. In my case, I would learn about what other younger civil servants are doing. In my case, I would use my time off, that half an hour or 45 minutes or 1 hour a day of sport that I would play while preparing. I would use that as my meditation, do my thinking. I would do a lot of long distance running. So I would use that as my meditation. So whatever works for you, but ultimately know why you want it. And that reason that you have should be the sole motivating factor to keep you going. Is the message I want to give. And I mean, if you're doing it for the right reasons, God will take you where you're meant to be. But of course, I want to say, once when I was preparing and I wasn't, it was, I think, my third attempt. I've said this once before also, but only once before. I had written the mains and I missed out of the interview stage by about 5 to 6 marks. And that time I was really devastated, and I thought, it's time to go back to law and there's no point in writing another attempt. And I was convinced. In fact, for a few days, I even went back to law and just wrote the prelims with like a month or 1.5 months of preparation. And once the prelims was, done, then I really started again. But that time when I was devastated, I asked my father this question. If it's destined, अगर सब कुछ लिखा है तो कुछ भी करने की क्या जरूरत है. अगर सब लिखा है तो वैसे भी आपको जो whatever is meant to you will come to you. And then he told me that apparently, I'm not sure, he had history as a subject, so he told me that Chandragupta had once asked Chanakya this question, कि सब कुछ लिखा है तो कुछ भी करने की क्या जरूरत है. And he said कि क्या आपकी किस्मत में ये लिखा है कि if you work hard आपको मिलेगा, right? So what if it's a conditional statement saying that your success is conditional upon the amount of hard work that you put in. So the thing that I'm trying to say by saying this is that the harder you work, the luckier you get. There is no substitute for hard work. You have to work very hard. You have to have the right kind of mindset to work hard. You have to keep away from any kind of any kind of negative distractions, any kind of, and you have to attract all the positive energy that you do. Surround yourself by the right people, your family, the right kind of friends. Yeah, there's any kind of success for anybody. You must have seen, since I am a tennis player, I follow the Grand Slams a lot. And whenever we see any new champion or even old champions, whether Djokovic wins or this time Alcaraz won or Federer used to win, they used to always never take the credit themselves. They would always say that my teamwork has led to me winning today. So you have to surround yourself by the right kind of people. In my case, it was my mom, my sister, who kept me going and gave me the kind of positive motivation that was required. So it's a combination of a few factors. It's all of those things that I said: perseverance, persistence, dogged hard work, surrounding yourself by the right kind of energy people, and knowing that you're doing it for the right reasons.
बहुत अच्छा विक्रमादित्य जी, आप इतना बढ़िया बोलते हैं, इतनी सारी बातें हैं बताने को, और लगता है कि हम लोग बात करते रहें, बट आई थिंक वी हैव just about couple of more minutes left. I'm sure this interview is going to serve as an inspiration for many young aspiring civil servants. Your story is truly remarkable. And 3 IAS in the family, one very accomplished author and a teacher. God bless you. Vikramaditya ji, I thank you for coming and sharing with us your story for the Bureaucrats India platform. As I said in the beginning, this platform is about celebrating goodness. It's about celebrating positivity. And it is officers like you, when they come and share their insights, stories, and remarkable achievements, that our objectives, we see the reason for which this was born getting fulfilled. Thank you very much. We shall continue to track you and write on you, on your initiatives. I'll wait to see the Ponds video and visuals. And of course, PRDMS is something that I would like to do an exclusive story. Our team will get back to you, with a request. One last word that you would want to say to us?
Thank you so much for having me as a part of your dialogue initiative. And I must say, you've been very magnanimous with your praise. And it's the purpose is not only to spread your work or to share your work with everybody, but the purpose is also to have people who keep an eye on you and keep a check on you, to inspire you to keep on doing better. So if we have more eyes through your platform who are looking at the work we're doing, hopefully we'll continue to do better and we learn from our mistakes and do even better. Thank you so much. It's been a privilege to be on this dialogue. Thank you.
Thank you. And that was Vikramaditya Singh Malik, an IAS of 2018 batch of UP cadre, currently posted as CDO of Ghaziabad, and is known for his brilliant Bikes of Bijnor project. Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you.